Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're heading out to the iconic, dusty landscapes of historic Route 66. A really fascinating experiment is unfolding out there. And it's a story about using some of the most advanced tech you can imagine. We're talking driverless cars, global AI, to solve one of America's most persistent and most human problems. Just getting people in rural towns the healthcare they desperately need.
And it all kicks off with his mission statement from the project's champion, Brion Crum. I really love this framing. They're not just solving a last-mile problem, which always sounds like an afterthought, right? No, they're creating a first-mile opportunity. It's about a new beginning for how we connect our most vulnerable communities to the care they need.
All right, so to really understand the solution, you first have to get a handle on the sheer scale of the problem. Our story starts in Paz County, Arizona, and this is a place where getting to a doctor's appointment isn't just some inconvenience, it is a full-blown crisis.
And this, right here, paints a really stark picture. Check out the median age in La Paz County. It's over 71. Now, compare that to the national average of about 38. That's a massive difference. What you have is an extreme demand for healthcare in a community where a huge chunk of the population needs regular medical attention.
And here is the absolute heart of the challenge. A critical hospital visit? That's not a quick trip down the street. It's an average journey of 32 miles. And for many, there's just no reliable or affordable way to make that trip. Just imagine, for a second, being in your 70s or 80s and having to figure that out, just for a routine checkup. So this is where the traditional system, what's called non-emergency medical transportation, or NEMT, this is where it completely breaks down. See, for transport companies, those long, empty return trips, they call them deadhead miles, make these rural routes totally unprofitable. That leads to driver shortages, which then means patients miss absolutely critical appointments for things like dialysis or chemo. It's this vicious cycle where the biggest barrier to health isn't even medical, it's just transportation. So what's the answer? Well, a project called Node 6 is stepping right into this crisis with a pretty radical solution, a fleet of autonomous electric vehicles that they call Kurb Kars.
Okay, so Node 6 is basically the operational muscle behind this whole thing. Their job is to get these Kurb Kars on the road, providing on-demand medical transport that's available 24/7, and it's completely independent of whether a human driver is available. Think about that. You need a ride to the clinic at 3 a.m.? The system is always on.
And this is where the economics become truly revolutionary. First, you take away the single biggest cost, the driver, and suddenly these routes actually make sense financially. But then there's this other brilliant revenue stream. When the cars are just sitting around waiting, they plug into the local grid and sell their battery power back. It's a concept called vehicle-to-grid, and that move right there transforms a money-losing trip into a highly profitable one, bumping the profit margin from around 50% all the way up to over 80%.
But these cars don't just drive themselves in a vacuum. There's a powerful global brain working behind the scenes. So let's pull back the curtain and see what's really making these wheels turn.
It turns out Node 6 is part of a bigger global company called DeReticular, and their whole mission is built on this idea they call the sovereign stack. The concept is to provide the three key pillars a community needs to be self-sufficient: the muscle, which is energy; the motion, which is logistics, like our Kurb Kars; and the mind, the intelligence that connects it all together.
And this is where the real magic happens. The mind is an AI called RIOS, which stands for Rural Infrastructure Operating System. It uses a technique called federated learning. Now, what that means is the AI learns from the experiences of every single vehicle in its network, all without sharing anyone's private data. So get this, every dusty mile a Kurb car drives in Arizona actually helps teach an autonomous tractor in Uganda how to better manage its battery in extreme heat. It's incredible. AI agents replace human dispatchers, and by combining satellite and 5G internet, the cars stay connected, even in the most remote desert canyons.
Okay, so you have the cars, you have this incredible AI, but how on earth do you pay for all this futuristic tech without selling off the company to investors? Well, they've come up with a brilliant funding blueprint to do exactly that. Their layer cake strategy is just a masterclass in how to leverage public funds. Now, this is so important because for a project like this, the usual path is venture capital, which means you give up ownership. Instead, they use what's called non-dilutive capital. They start small with state grants to pay for the really expensive work of applying for the big federal money. Then, they use those huge federal grants to build the actual physical infrastructure, the charging grid. And finally, they go after specialized research grants to fund the rollout of the cars and the AI. Each layer builds on the last, letting them fund the revolution without selling it off.
And look,
This isn't just some theory or a vague idea. It is a concrete, real-world action plan. This table lays out the precise steps their champion, Brion Crum, needs to take throughout 2026. It shows exactly which grant to apply for, which partner to secure, and when to do it. It's a super clear path from idea to actual execution.
So what is the grand vision here? Where does this all lead? Well, this project isn't just happening in some random desert. It's taking place on the actual asphalt of America's most iconic highway, Route 66.
And their pitch is it's so powerful. They're positioning this futuristic tech as the next evolution of the American road itself. The plan is to tie this whole project to the upcoming Route 66 centennial in 2026, making these autonomous pods a symbol of the road's future, not just its past.
What's so crucial here is that they aren't just building a tech project in a bubble. They are weaving it directly into the economic and the cultural fabric of the whole region. They're using historic preservation grants to build charging stations at old motels, planning shuttle services for tourists, and even tackling the massive traffic problems for the hundreds of thousands of RVers who flock to the area every winter.
So, by proving that this autonomous tech can deliver both profit and truly compassionate care in one of the toughest environments you can imagine, Node 6 is asking a really profound question. This isn't just about Paz County anymore. It's about whether this model, this blend of high-tech logistics with deep community needs, could be the blueprint for revitalizing rural economies everywhere. And that is a powerful thought to leave you with.